I'm going to start. I'm going to do a bit of screen sharing, a bit of teaching, a bit of awareness, and then we'll have a discussion. So that's how this will flow. So the first thing I'm going to share is maybe something none of us maybe want to look at, but I found it fascinating. I looked up BC Health Interior's view of VBACs. And of course, they use all this language that's very like, yay, risks. But what I thought was really great was this sentence right here. They actually say that a routine vaginal delivery is less risky than a routine cesarean, which is a major surgery. And I gotta say, big ups to Interior Health being like, guess what? Cesareans are major surgeries and it can be risky. Um, I want to talk about what they have written here. They're actually talking about the problems that result in cesarean deliveries. Um, and they say that they occur to 25 out of 100 women who try VBACs, but it doesn't. So there's actually, even according to Interior Health, there's a greater percentage of women who are not having issues with VBACs, which I know it's not what we're going to focus on, but I just really wanted to give you all um, what is here, what's here in our medical world. This is also key right here. It says a vertical incision used in past C-sections and uses of certain medicines to start or induce our birth processes. Um, so those are the things that used to be what has created all this fear around uterine rupture. So that's a big thing that people sometimes want to talk about. I think it's really important to remind our clients that they don't even do this anymore. Generally, if you're in Canada, you're not getting a vertical incision. So that's also kind of gone. So I thought it was really just fascinating that they actually give a pathway for VBACs, which was very cool. There's all kinds of other stuff where it's definitely like they're still going to do all the medical management. This also here, the risks of cesarean delivery include, I find it fascinating that Interior Health is even telling you what some of the risks are in cesarean, considering that um, it is a business and there is a cesarean epidemic. Like I think we've gone up from 40% to 50 in the past few years. So um, anyways, I don't want to spend too much time on that. That's about all I'm going to spend on it. But I really just think it's important to remind our clients and also as birthing women that even the medical system thinks that it's worth trying. So I wanted to share this resource. Indie Birth is fabulous. If you haven't, how many of you have heard of Indie Birth as a resource? Show of hands, yeah. So if you, yeah, this is the link. Thanks, Robin. Oh, you can do hand, I'm learning so much about Zoom. It's crazy. I'm going to take this particular link and I'm going to pop it in the chat. Indie Birth is an amazing resource for podcasts. There are two women who are traditional birth workers. And this is a couple stories that they have, a couple podcasts that they have on specifically on VBACs. I just wanted to show you that. We're just going to rip right through all these. This is from one of those stories. And I wanted to highlight the plot that I've highlighted. It says, I got to the point where I trusted myself more than anyone else. That is tremendous when coming at, and this story comes from a woman who actually did an unassisted or a free birth version or traditional birth, vaginal birth after cesarean. So someone who's chosen at home and someone who was without, I can't remember which one of these ladies was without, one was without a birth attendant and one was with like a traditional birth attendant. So in most of the care that I have offered for women who are UVBAC mamas, it's a lot about trusting themselves. And the same thing came up in the other story, which I highlighted, where the mom was talking about not even doing any checks. And this is Marin, one of the workers, and she says, um, just experiencing other people's needs and wants on your pregnancy, experiencing other people's needs, other people's wants can be so affecting on any pregnancy. And when we're dealing with something which traditionally, I shouldn't say traditionally, I should say historically, like within the past 100 and whatever years, has been really considered a danger because those vertical incisions, we're actually up against quite a lot of myth. We're up against quite a lot of pushback from even the people who really might love us. So I just wanted to highlight that a general theme for moms from this little resource of indie birth was that really diving into trusting yourself and then anyone else. And similarly, it's like getting really into what your body, what you need, what your family, everything about you and this sacred creature that you are, what you can create through your birth is key. A bit about, so this is from Gloria Lemay's website. I'm going to drop this link in the chat as well. And when I post this video, I'll see if I can include those links there. This is a great resource for birth workers and also mamas planning UVBACs. She goes through different stages of birth. I'm just going to zoom this out? I can. She goes through the different stages of birth and talks about the different elements of preparation that you might offer as a service provider. And I think, what did I have highlighted here? This part right here. What I have noticed as a theme in a lot of the UVBACs that I've supported over the years, and I have to say that even though we might notice patterns and themes, I love coming at every birth as its new and first experience. So I try really hard to put patterns and things that I might have seen in the past aside. One of the ones that seems to pop up often is this bit about self-sabotage or just a very, fuck me, basically. I fucked up and this is never going to work. And the VBAC mama or the UVBAC mama is very, that part about getting into trusting the self, that can be a big, huge journey. And that's okay. Like the fact that that we're pregnant for 9, 10 months or whatever it is, moons, we can take that time to work on those exact patterns of thought. It's literally in our mind. To lean back on that interior health thing, the fact that interior health is saying, do VBACs, go for it, try it. Like you're probably in a great percentile. We're really in a world now where even the medical system is catching up to recognizing what a woman can do. And we get to catch up too. So what Gloria says as a propensity to self-sabotage can sometimes be what we schedule longer visits for with a UVBAC mama, perhaps. And we're allowing space. It's not that we go in having solutions. It's not like we're going in and going, well, I can solve all your emotional ups and downs. We're creating space for that expression and that sort of, room for that mama to just cry if she needs to, or get angry at things if she needs to, and course through all that for those pregnant months as she prepares for that little tip of the iceberg we call birth. If you do have any thoughts or questions that come up in my, I just have a couple more things to share, please feel free to write them down in the chat and we'll get to them. So Gloria also goes through the day of birth. She sometimes works beside medical midwives. So and I personally, like, I don't actually I don't do heart rate checks because I'm not a diagnostician. Like in my own traditional birth work, I don't consider myself someone who would know how to tell one thing or the other with a baby's heart beat. Um, Baby's heartbeat and rate can go up and down in sensations. So that's my own personal, I guess, choice in service. But this part right here, the stabbing pain piece and unusual bleeding, I've never seen it. And that would be the mom, again, like the mom stepping into knowing when something is actually very wrong, um, or just, really aiming towards a different experience, then rather than having someone on the outside of her body be telling her that something could be going wrong, I think that leans back into the trust piece and sort of cultivating space for that woman to really get in touch with her own body. Yeah, she says no pain, no induced, no pain medic, but that would be more for a medical scenario. Postpartum, so I have um, this right here, not postpartum, the third stage where the placenta is coming out. I haven't seen the placenta adhere to the scar, um, but I have seen where the scar tissue itself was a little thicker and the placenta got sort of caught on the scar tissue. And um, see how it says we do not want to have a uterine prolapse caused by pulling. 100% in my work, I'm never the one pulling anything. Um, it's very okay if the mother feels like, oh, the placenta's right here, but it's not coming out. She can absolutely gently pull on that cord. And because it's still in her body and a part of her, if it's still attached to her, again, we're trusting and we're recognizing that we're going to know if we shouldn't be pulling. So she gets to kind of uh, test that out. Um, that is the only circumstance where I've seen someone choose where she couldn't. She didn't feel comfortable with what she was feeling, and she transferred as a non-emergency to a maternity ward close by and did have Pitocin. So she had a third stage management. Um, that was the only time really where anybody that I've worked with has even chosen to, one of two times where someone has chosen to go into a medical setting. And I thought she made a really informed decision at that point. Like she felt very empowered in what she was choosing. And I think that's truly when we are traditional birth workers and support people, and as the women coming into their birth processes, whether UVBAC or vaginal birth at home unassisted, it's always about creating that space for that woman to really be informed. It's not informed consent, it's informed choice. It's how many things does she know and how have we prepared her for all these options, and taking one step at a time to come up with all those possibilities, and then her being able to say, this one feels the best. Um, but otherwise, that was only one of the UVBACs that I went to, and there haven't been any issues otherwise with my personal experiences. Um, this is really cute. I think this is cute that she says this VBAC women need to be told they can walk upright. I think that's adorable. I just think it's cute because Gloria is cute. Um, I haven't actually experienced, I don't know, for those, maybe Jaquel, you can speak a bit after if you feel like you'd like to share, but I never, I don't know, I've never seen that. I've never come across that. The one thing that I have come across is when women are in their birth process and the baby's head is coming down and moving just past those inner scars, some women have said that it feels funky. They've described it, like as if you fractured your ankle and then you kind of touched in its together like a zoom. Some women don't feel any of that at all. So again, millions of possibilities. And the last thing I wanted to share here, is that my last thing? My last thing, well, I guess this is just a really quick question that I have asked my clients before, which is tell me how you know that this time you're going to have a vaginal birth. I use those kinds of questionings and those kinds of prompts for my ladies often, where once we've had a big outpouring of all the emotions and we sifted through all kinds of things, it's really about looking into the future and creating, okay, well, how is this going to be? Like, you get to be the manifester of your reality, and how is that going to feel, and what is that going to look like? So I thought that's great. That's a great prompt to remember for our ladies when we are the support ladies. And this is the last one, I promise. So this is the last one. This is more for workers, but I think it can hold, especially for women planning UVBACs, the energy output. And honestly, I think I'll put this. Oh, I think it's just at the bottom, that link that I put in from Wise Woman Way. If you just scan down, this one's called Insider's Tip on How to Have a Great VBAC. First-time moms and UVBACs have a very similar, sometimes similar experience in that there's a lot of excitement and a lot of energy right at the beginning, because the UVBAC mama is almost a first-time mom in a way. She's having that vaginal birth for the first time. So a lot of the sensations, the further along in her process she goes, especially when she goes past the time or the moment when she previously had the cesarean, it's all new and it's all exciting, and we're like, oh, what's happening, and it can be, they could get a whole lot of energy is being mustered up, and they might just still be in an inactive process and still have quite a while to go before baby. So this article speaks about calm, quiet, collected rest, and really, I love this right here. Have a secret sensation time with your unborn baby. So don't tell anyone, she says. Don't tell anybody that you think that things have begun, and even just be with yourself in the dark. And I love that, so yeah. So that's my rant. I'm gonna stop sharing. I can find the button. So I'd love to know thoughts, comments, questions. If you have something you want to say, just wave at me or put your little hand up. And if nothing comes, I will ask a question. Any thoughts? Anything that you came here with that you feel is what you know, wisdom you have, anything you'd like to share?
Hi,
Yeah.
thanks for having me. That was very cool. I loved everything that I heard there. I think it's so exciting that you have this little forum for everyone to be able to share, thoughts and concerns, or, good stories, successful stories, all that stuff. I'm sure that you've got lots of different books, but I came across this book and I wanted to share it because I found it so empowering. So it's called Our Births, Our Stories. Have you read this one? Oh, it was like absolutely amazing. Like, I'm a doula in Kelowna, so I'm done having my babies, but my first baby, well, my first and only baby was a C-section. So I wish that I had an opportunity to have another so that I could experience it totally different. But wow, it was so powerful, and would highly suggest anyone who is pregnant and wants to do a VBAC or supporting VBACs. Like, they're just short stories, but yeah, incredibly empowering just to know that you can do it and let your body really, really lead the way. So I think fear happens in birth a lot, regardless of, whether it's a first time, second time, VBAC or not. But yeah, really not allowing that to come into that sacred space. So yeah, happy to be here. Thanks.
I love that. And thanks so much for sharing, Jaquel. And yes, fear. I saw somewhere fear, there's like an acronym. Does anybody know it offhand? I was just searching for it. False evidence appearing real, which I like because it kind of like takes all the fears that we might have and turns them into explorations, and we can use those fears to really reveal so much of ourselves and so much of our previous thoughts. So I love the bringing of a book into the mix and all resources. If anybody else does have any more resources and they'd like to share it in the chat for us to glean, that's amazing. Um, yeah, the more the merrier. I think the more knowledge that we have going in to birth, it's like it really to me is, I think I lightly mentioned the concept of the iceberg. I think it's what we build before we're in our birth processes. And then we have our birth process. And I think that's a beautiful thing that we're more and more of us are just able to access that. So yeah, Jaquel, the fear thing is, let's talk about that for a second. Like what are either as I think I read here that there's a couple mamas who are, I'm just reading back in the text, couple mamas, a couple people here who are learning, a couple people who are planning UVBACs. Ah, so Robin and Carmen, are you also planning a UVBAC? Are you generally just interested in birth and having saying supporting a next birth? Yeah, I guess you don't have to share if you don't want to as well. We can just also leave that to the wind. But nevertheless, that's wonderful. So what are like the fear bits? Like let's demystify, let's demythify. And maybe your book, Jaquel, is gonna have some facts we can lean on too. Let's demystify some fears, or yeah, we're just gonna call them fears for now. Worries, thoughts. If you have one, you can unmute yourself and shout it really loud. Okay. Yes, Jenna.
um so I think like just generally like what happens in an emergency, and those emergencies to me are like I was afraid of bleeding. And that is something that the more that I've learned about, I think that has been almost put to rest for me, which I'm really grateful for. And I'm hoping that that's the case with all of these fears, is that you just learn more and then you don't have to be so fearful of them. But I think for me, I so much has been projected onto me about my physical stature. I'm quite a small person. And so even with my first, there was so much external noise about like, oh, you'll probably need a C-section because you're so small anyway. And so I think there's like this embedded fear of baby getting stuck, like a dystocia or something like that. That's kind of it's just there. It's so rare, but there's like that piece, like, what do you do in that situation? And then more recently, someone brought up um, tearing, and if you don't have a provider there to stitch, then what? So those little fears have been poking up for me as of recently.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. Um, I'd like to talk about the first one, the room. There's this little old wives saying that we have ample and adequate room, or we have enough room for a horse. So Um, I would like to share a little wee story of a birth I just supported. And this kind of leans into that piece about trusting the body, because I hear you, right? This is like that thing where other people are going to have all these opinions about us, about our bodies. And I just went on a walk today with a client. She was like, why is it that people just want to share? Oh, it looks like you're having twins. Like, how is that helpful? How is it anything helpful when we're just like launching these things of pregnant women? Um, and I attended a birth wherein the woman was saying, I wasn't watching. She was in her process, and family was with her. And I was sitting in the doorway of the bathroom, and I was listening to her. And she says, the baby just feels like she's going in and then going out, in and out, in and out, which can be indicative of a potential dystocia of some sort, a stuckedness. But there are ways to maneuver our bodies. Like we don't, in traditional birth, there's not even really the concept of a stuckedness, unless there are very real, um, maybe like 2 or 3 actual signs of like, okay, we need to try something different here. Um, so I said out loud, I said, you're doing great. Keep your breath low, lower all the sounds. And this was after a gloriously overnight birth process. This was now early wee hours of the morning. And I told myself internally as a support worker, I said, if things don't move within a couple more sensations here, I'm gonna go over there and suggest that she was leaning on the bath on her, like these are her knees. So she was like that on the floor, so kind of like that. And then she was leaning over. And I said, I'm going to suggest to her that she gets into the proposal, like as if a man's getting, or a lady is getting down and proposing, and you have one knee up. And so I'm listening, and there she goes, another big sensation. I'm like, don't push, which kind of leads into the tearing thing. Okay, PS on the side note. I was like, don't push, just breathe right through that. Let all those hormones, this is about that tearing piece, run into your perineum, because the more you don't push, the more progesterone is actually going to make your perineum very stretchy. And the chances of tearing are significantly lower if you don't push. So this woman is in there, and another sensation goes by, and she's saying, she's kind of like, it's like that, everything. And I was like, everything, just relax, like bring everything down. Jaquel knows. She's like, heck yeah, I've heard that sound. And it's like, okay, everything just relax, just bring all that energy down. And so she did, she brought all that energy down. And I was like, slow your breath. And she's like, and in my head, I'm like, okay, this is a second sensation. I haven't heard an exclamation of like, there's the head. So I turn from the door jamb and I start gently crawling forward on the bathroom. And there's like candles, it's dark. And lo and behold, in her own, this is first time mama, in her intuitive self, I see her maneuvering her body up into a proposal position. She's doing it herself and lifting her leg. And I was like, oh, and I just like backpedaled across the floor of the bathroom. And to me, my heart was literally exploding, because that was this supreme lesson or reminder, I guess, that when a woman is truly supported to listen to her body deeply and to move in the way that she wants to move, there's no judgment, there's no eyes on it, it's a very free for her to be in tune. She'll even maneuver herself right out of something that, say if I had said anything, how much stress that would have caused, or how much um, potential, that's rising cortisol in the body, or it's rising heart rates, and that there's all kinds of, effects. So I guess just to say that there are there are always possibilities. And the number one possibility that matters the most, and that 9 times out of 10 is what we make space for, is you, Jenna, in your body, in your being. And little mamas pop out big babies, big mamas pop out weeny, weeny, teensy, beanie babies. Like there's no rules in the plethora of possibilities. And that's not to say that you're not allowed to have all that thought jumble right on through your head. It's gonna come probably again, you know, and it's just that can perhaps serve as a reminder to be like, oh yeah, this is that thing where I can remind myself to get in touch with my intuition, you know, almost as a beacon of like, right, I can use this fear as a reminder for what I know and for where I'm at. And then in terms of tearing, um, only one of my mamas has ever had a tear. It's very rare, and she did not listen. She just pushed and pushed. It, basically, the progesterone, the babies will crawl right out of a passed out mom, put it that way. Okay, so we don't really need to push at all. And when we're induced or when we're medicated, we can't feel our bodies, and we don't really know what's going on. And um, a lot of tearing is in medical settings. Traditional birth, there's not a lot of tearing. You're right, a traditional birth support worker should not be stitching you up because we're not in the 1800s. You can call, if very minor risk of tearing, but if you were to tear, you can call if you feel like you want to stitch. Vaginas are also self-healing. So with a little bit of tender love, it will suture itself. It will not be a tear that is, it'll be more about your own vanity, to be honest. If you're like, oh no, but I liked the way my vagina looked before I had this baby. So could you please doctor stitch it to make it look cute and pretty again? You know, I'm kidding. I mean, but sort of in traditional birth, there's also yarrow is antibacterial, and it is the herb that used to be used by the military back in World War I to stuff in their wounds because it will clot a wound immediately. You can make a styptic powder. So if you take yarrow and harvest it before the flower comes, and you take the leaves, 2 ways to use it. You can make a styptic powder where you dry the plant and then you grind it into a powder, and you can shake that powder onto a wound. You can stuff it into a wound. Because it's antibacterial, it's actually protecting, and because it's a plant, it will wash away in time. So it's not like it's not like your skin will grow over and you'll just have an embedded yarrow leaf in your beautiful vagina for the rest of your life, your vulva. The other way you can use it is a spit. What are they called when you chew it and you stuff it, spit it? But you have to either chew it or dry it to get the component. The spit one, for the person chewing it, it's very bitter. Yarrow is gross, but uh, if it means you're gonna stop a bleed, um, we have with the woman who did. Oh, amazing! You got it across the border, Jennifer. They were like, what? KS. It says, for those of you watching, I don't think they'll see the chats. Jennifer says she brought yarrow. This is the one herb she brought to Mexico. Oh, it was dry. Well, yeah, I guess so. But still, that's impressive. I would think that they'd be like, what is this? Anyways, yeah, so yarrow is a great, and it's actually springtime right now. Baby yarrow is coming up. This is the best time to harvest it before the flowers pop. So go in your backyard. You probably have some. It's everywhere. Snip it, hang it upside down to dry, grind it into a powder. And if you do happen to tear at all, or even if you get a very minor little scratch and it's stinging, like sometimes the very minor tears, the worst part about it is that when you pee, it stings. So you can just take a little bit of that styptic powder and just go, and that's a great old. Anyone else with fear things. We're going to smash them today. We're going to.
I'll say something.
Thank you.
Yeah, just as I plan my next birth and regarding the fears, it's like the past 15 weeks has been just a process of like really recognizing what fears are mine and which ones aren't. And the majority of the time, honestly, I've realized they're not my fears. You know, like someone will say something, or I'll hear a podcast about a story with another woman and I go, oh, is that something I should be worried about? And then my brain kind of starts kind of just going, and I'm finding myself pretty confidently at this point being able to, you know, think about it, let those wheels turn for a little bit, and then just letting it go. You know, and there's like a, I guess there's like a, if I think about postpartum hemorrhage or something, and then, you know, someone says, oh, well, you know, make sure to have your tinctures on hand. And so just like sitting with that, and it's like, okay, what does that feel like for me? And so there's a part of me that goes, well, okay, maybe I should get the tinctures just in case. And then another part of me feels like, but is that just opening the door for the possibility? Right. So I guess I'm kind of struggling with like, obviously being prepared and educated, and, you know, the Free Birth Society podcast has just been life-changing for me. I'm just hearing all the women's stories. It's just making me feel so empowered and confident and inspired, and feeling like, what makes me different than all of them? I'm not, you know? And so I'm so grateful for that. And it's like normalizing these VBACs and not making it such a thing, you know? And so the fear around just in general has like slowly dissipated for me the more that I just hear all these stories. But yeah, so I guess the only thing right now that I feel that I'm kind of like back and forth with would, like, the tincture thing would sort of be an example of like, well, should I get that? But like, does that mean I'm like now going down that path, you know? And so I'm kind of like, I don't know what to go. I'm like kind of in the middle of this like dance back and forth in my own brain, I guess. Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing. And Robin, can I ask you a question?
sure.
When you think about birth and your birth, what are you very much for? What are you for? Just what are you for?
I'm for myself.
Yeah.
I'm for, yeah. And so like when I intuitively feel into it, I know that everything's going to be fine. I know that with my like entire being. But then there's like those little dabbles of like the fear that come in, the what ifs, you know, and it's just contending with that through the next, you know, 7 months of my pregnancy, I suppose. But actually, yeah, now that I'm like saying it out loud and you just asked me that, I feel like I know my answer. Yeah.
Sometimes it's really, really, really easy. I love how you said taking on, it's like wondering, okay, wait, I'm afraid of postpartum hemorrhage. Is that my fear? Is that somebody else's fear? Oh,
Yeah.
here are these things that I could do just in case. But if I do that, am I bringing someone else's fear into my birth? And if I'm bringing their fear, does that mean I have that fear now? Or is that the fear that you like? I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're speaking of.
Yeah.
And sometimes a gentle reminder to the self can be just, what am I for? Because if we're going through a pregnancy, thinking about all the things we're against, like for instance, I'm against medicalized managed birth for healthy women. Against. But like if I if I sat constantly in against, then I'm disregarding the thing that I'm actually for, which is that the women that I serve are feeling very empowered and full of knowledge in every choice that they make, you know? And so maybe if I bring my against into my birth support work, or the births that I've had, if I bring what I'm against into it, then I think what you're saying is totally accurate, where you're going to wind up pulling that in, and it almost becomes this blinder, and we forget what we're here for. So really looking at fears, not only from the sense of like, in short, postpartum hemorrhage, super effing rare
Yeah.
in traditional birth, like so goddamn rare. And placenta always comes out. I come with the tea when I show up, shepherd's purse, fennel, and cinnamon. Tinctures, no tinctures. Like tinctures are kind of a newer apothecary, you know, type thing. Is it how did we all get here? We all pop babies out in the middle of nowhere, you know? So really when it comes down to it, it's more what are you for? And if what you're for is your intuitive experience, you know, which is fucking beautiful, Robin. Like if that's what you're for, then when you get into that stage of that placenta passing, focus on baby. Talk about how excited you are that baby is in your arms. Get the people around you, whoever it is, to go fix you a feast. Get a platter of food in front of you and just mow, you know, and don't even think about, we don't even, we just, the placenta comes when the placenta comes. And then there's all these little cute ways that you can scooch it out, but there's no rush and there's no pressure. And the third stage, that placenta process, can sometimes be more magical than birth itself because it's you as the mom releasing your mother, the first mother, you know, and you're stepping into that space. So if what you're here for is your intuitive experience, everything that you surround yourself with, like amazing, and chances are you won't use it, and chances are that that thing sitting on your windowsill, if it is a part of your intuitive experience, then that's how it's serving you. If it represents, for instance, if yarrow, if like having a stypic powder of yarrow for like the, oh, if I tear this much and I don't, you know, if having that on the windowsill isn't again, well, I'm scared of tearing, and that's what it's bringing up every time you look at it, throw it the fuck away. You know? That's what I think. I mean, everybody's gonna, you know, but I think it's beautiful that you can identify with whether a fear is yours or someone else's, and then I would invite you and people watching in the future, then think about what you're for. Like if you're having a hard time, because heck yeah, we're gonna get those, you know, pulling. If you're having a hard time, um, you know, just stand really strongly. What am I for? And let those things be the louder voice. Amber is commenting over here. Or Robin, did you have anything else you wanted to share? No? Good. Amber saying, I think I blame my postpartum hemorrhage on the use of Angelica. My birth is so blurry, I can't remember exactly how things went. Girl, so Angelica, Kohash, I had a mom who was in her 35th week, and somebody was like, oh, if you want a great, amazing birth process, but I'm sure she used the word labor, which I don't like because it reminds me of men working in ditches. And she was like, oh, if you want a beautiful birth process, eat this vitamin. So my client went off and got a vitamin. And I said, can we have a look at those ingredients? Because you're saying you're feeling kind of funky now. Flu Kohash was in there. So I think Angelica, it was like herbs that are used to do what is called natural induction. So castor oil is another one of those. In traditional birth, we are not inducing. And postpartum hemorrhage, Amber, you're probably bang on. You know, postpartum hemorrhage is and can be directly result from induction. It doesn't matter if it's a medical induction or a natural, quote unquote, natural induction. Do you want to speak about that, hun? Amber?
So I used the Angelica, I think, about 45 minutes after the perfect birth. And I just can't remember if I was using it before or after the bleeding started. I
Mm.
was my placenta didn't come out until transferred to the hospital.
Totally. And that's so hard. Angelica is a tricky one, and so are the Kohash. Um, and, I've attended and I've supported 6-hour placenta processes. And sometimes we want, uh, those processes to happen. We start to get that fear in us. Like what do you remember? What had you decide? I guess you're saying it was blurry. Hey, it is hard to remember, isn't it?
Yeah, because I ended up passing out from the blood loss. That whole bit's kind of blurry.
That's
But I have like 45 minutes of video after the birth and everything seemed fine.
yeah.
So I don't know. I remember trying to push out my placenta, but it was all clots, and I don't know if that was before or after tinctures or not.
Mm. Clotting, I have seen with zero tincture births. Clots can we can some women have clots that almost look like sizes of golf balls, and it's just
It
tons
felt
of,
like the placenta.
like it was all torn
It
up.
was humongous, and I passed out right after that.
Wow, that's unique, my sister. Was there, just out of curiosity, what about food, blood sugars? Like, how had you been for nourishment?
Like my birth was so fast, it was like 3 hours, but I remember waking up starving, wanting to eat, and then baby came too fast to eat.
Mm.
I drank a bunch of juice after he was born, so like my blood sugar was fine at the hospital.
Mm-hmm. And then did you use any natural induction, like castor oil or anything before for birth, or was this
No, I woke up
spontaneous?
to a very strong contraction and he was there within a couple hours.
Wow, sister. Yeah. I honestly have never heard great things about the Angelica tincture personally. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's odd to me in the same way that this mom got suggested to take this vitamin that was supposed to help her, and then it's got all these herbs in it that people might, I mean, even I believe, if I'm not mistaken, even the medical midwives will travel, some of them with these sort of like what is it called? Like homeopathics, right? These are the tinctures that we can make. And yeah. Where did did you make it?
No, I ordered it from Apotheca, I don't know, out of Vancouver, I think.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing. You know, I think that is where, there was one woman that I served where she was about to pass out, and it became very apparent that she hadn't eaten. Um, and sometimes that can cause all kinds of funky stuff in our bodies, um, which doesn't help then when, say, we're also dealing with some sort of placental thing happening. Like if a big clot actually was your placenta coming out, um, you know, was the placenta ever a fully intact placenta? Like, did that when you were
Yeah,
in the
when I
hospital?
got to the hospital, I pushed again and she pulled a little and it came out whole.
Okay. And then may I ask, what did you do? And any of this you don't want to answer, and totally just be like, no, I'm good now. Thanks, bye. Did you have any blood transfusion or
No, I denied a blood transfusion and got an iron infusion.
iron infusion? Fascinating. Who, uh, then diagnosed the hemorrhage?
I like we called 911 when I passed out.
Yeah, and just who diagnosed the postpartum hemorrhage?
I mean, they kind of said it just based on what we told them.
You told them, yeah.
Um, like my blood pressure was extremely low when the paramedics got there.
Totally. And you were actively bleeding when they got there?
By the time we were on the ambulance, no, I wasn't bleeding anymore.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's fascinating. Thank you so much, Amber, for sharing, because you know, when our bodies are releasing everything that is coming after baby, again, there is such a diverse reality for women. And there's so many factors there, it's like, and thank you so much for being really clear about all these factors for everyone, because um, that's wonderful that you drank juice, and it's wonderful that you were even able to witness what was coming out. Some women are not even wanting to look, so that's great that you were seeing. I think it's fabulous that you opted for the iron, as opposed to the blood transfusion, or sometimes there's other things like plasma and things like that too. um, I think it's fascinating that you weren't actively bleeding when you were actually being transferred. um, uh, some things can sometimes look like a hemorrhage, and our bodies can sometimes reverse them, which is very rare, but you might be a magical one of those. Um, and sometimes things can look like a hemorrhage, and they're not. And it can we can be fainting for other reasons too.
I feel also based on my recovery from it that it was just because it took about 2 weeks before I wasn't passing out every time I tried to get up.
Standing up, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you might be one of those magical queens who hemorrhaged just a squish bit and then stopped everything in the inside of you. There are some traditional methods too, which I've never been in a situation where I would have even thought to offer it. Um, but it's a fist inside, and it's over the top on the outside of the uterus. And what you're trying to get to happen is the uterus um, to actually contract down to close all those capillaries. So you're using a fist and your hand to close. But these are very. I'm really grateful that you shared, because I think it's really important in traditional birth, um, just to recognize that these different herbs and all these different textures, they can affect every woman differently. So what works for one woman might not work for another woman. And um, we are, when people say the apothecaries are these stores outside of us, I always like to think of the apothecary as me. We are the apothecaries, and we can test, and we can take risks, and we can try things and do things that um, we might even stop halfway through, like this woman who was taking this vitamin, and she stopped taking it because it was making her feel horrible, or some women even just drink red raspberry leaf and they wind up being like, ah, this is making my body feel like I'm going to have my baby today and I'm only 26 weeks. So every mom is different, and I think, with Angelica and the cohosh and the tinctures, you're right, like they're very powerful herbs. And so personally, when I'm working with women, I honestly don't recommend them generally, because it's kind of like an experiment, in a way. And it's so crazy that then we're given all these resources, and then we still can we can be either on the butt end of it or the the good end of it. I'm so happy, Amber, though, that your body decided to stop bleeding. That's wonderful. You're amongst a very few lucky ones who, yeah, I'm really, really grateful for the share. And there's a lot in there, I think, for those listening, to think about. I think I've been at births where things can very much look like a postpartum hemorrhage. But if the mom's still happy and things are still going great, she's got 30% blood increase in her body, and she needs that much to come out of her when she gives birth. So it can look like quite a lot sometimes. Iron is key. Good iron in the pregnant woman before she's giving birth. An amazing diet, really good nourishment is really important too. And as a support worker, sometimes it's like, when is the last time you ate food? Or when's the last, this birth that I just went to, it was like, oh, we had breakfast, we had lunch. Oh, she hasn't had dinner. And it's like 8 o'clock. It's like, okay, well, how can we get nourishment? In the medical setting, they don't want that because they're always looking at the potential of the surgery. So, in UVBACs, when the processes might be longer, slower, and not slow because we don't like slow because the woman is she's having all those sensations for the very first time as she goes forward. It's really important to stay on top of nourishment and get it in as however we can, whether it's I think with this woman we did a smoothie with almond butter and a bunch of berries and just maple syrup, like loads of energy and protein packed nourishment. So yeah, we've come to 4:31. We've gone 1 minute over our time, and I want to honor everybody's time that we've all committed. Thank you so much to each of you for attending and being present. And I really enjoyed sorting through a couple fears. I think three. Did we do three? We did 3 fears, which is great. I will post the replay link. Oh, if you'd like and you want to, I think I'm going to start an email list because there's starting to be quite a few people. So if you'd like to put your email in the chat for me to grab, and you want to be notified via email of future Flash Forums, I think that the topic of postpartum hemorrhage is honestly one that comes up so often that my next one would probably be just simply about that, because I think that's really, Amber, thank you so much for sharing so deeply. I cannot imagine that was a pleasant experience. Yeah, so thank you each for sharing. And yeah, Jennifer, I will add you to you're welcome to message me at all, anytime, with any questions. I am, if you look up barefoot-birth.ca, there's a bunch of advocacy on there. The YouTube channel is Barefoot Birth OneStep program. It's my apprenticeship and teaching program that I offer. Thank you for your emails. I'm going to grab them before I stop this. So how do I even do that? Now I have to figure out how to do this. Anybody else have any last comments, or would you like to perhaps share the greatest piece of value that you found in today's conversation? Just shout it out. Share. Grab all your emails while you think about value. Jaquel, is that how I say your name?
Yeah.
You said you're in Kelowna?
Yes.
I'm in Kelowna.
You're in Kelowna.
I'm in Kelowna.
We should get together.
We should.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Do you, and Jennifer, I have your email. Do you attend? Let's just get together. Let's not do this on the public YouTube.
Okay. I have you on Instagram, so I'll message you.
Okay,
I
great.
think I have
Okay,
you on
do that.
Instagram. Let's
Okay,
see.
awesome. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Very, very much. Many thanks. Oh, Robin says, always remembering my why. Yeah. What are you here for? It's like that song that that girl sings, what was I made for? Okay, anyways.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.